Okay, so the teachings this week come from chapter 4, the Mark of Emptiness. And the words from the Heart Sutra are, listen, Sariputra, all phenomena bear the mark of emptiness. And so he starts again with the fact that we have been looking at how our bodies, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness are not the same from one moment to the next. They are continually transforming and evolving. Emptiness does not only refer to the 5 skandhas, though, the skandhas that we call ourselves. All phenomena, all dharmas, which I thought was interesting, all teachings are empty as well. And then Thich Nhat Hanh gave some examples, one of which of changing beliefs, are changing teachings. And he said at the time of the Buddha, a divine self was a belief common to most traditions of Indian spiritual practice. People believed that underneath all changes that we observe in ourselves, there is something that doesn't change, a kind of immortal soul or essence. People believed that after the physical body disintegrated, the soul would continue in another physical body and that it would go through many cycles of death and rebirth. And he goes on to say, when the Buddha began to teach, he challenged this belief. He taught that there is nothing that we can call a self. This was the beginning of a revolution. And I have to say that I had not heard this teaching before. So this is really struck me in a lot of ways. So he goes on to say, the Buddha's teaching was actually aimed at undermining both the idea of an individual self and that of a universal self. Despite this, in the centuries following the Buddha's death, the notion of self began to creep back into the teachings. According to some spiritual theories, sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to turn that off, or I would, but it's my birthday, so I may get some calls. I'm sorry.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, Cynthia was saying happy continuation day. And then I was thinking of those who had died. I was telling her about Daddy D, and it's just like so many continuations. It's just, it's a nice meditation. So he goes on to say that people were thinking that the elements could exist independently. And so that was interesting, Pat, that you brought the elements, because his saying that made me think about the elements, fire, earth, water, air. And I started to really examine how they interplay with each other. And they're not separate. And that, like, even the fires here cannot exist without the air that's, blowing them, and the earth that's being burned, and it's like, it is quite an amazing meditation. But he goes on to say, with the advent of quantum mechanics, many scientists no longer see matter in this way. They agree that things are composed of atoms, which are themselves composed of subatomic particles. But they now say that these subatomic particles do not exist as independent entities. They are not separate entities. They have relationship with everything else in the cosmos, and they cannot be characterized as solid entities. They are dynamic and always fluctuating. And so he asks, in our observation of the cosmos, from the smallest elementary particle to a blade of grass, a river, a ray of sunlight, or a distant galaxy, what is static or unchanging? Our body is not static. It is a river made of cells constantly flowing, and the cells of our body go through birth and death in every moment. So there is no separate self. There is no permanent soul. There is nothing unchanging, but there is continuation. He says a river is always flowing, but if you look deeply, you don't see a self which causes the river to flow. There is no director or controller, no boss giving the instructions. The river is always changing, always renewing itself. You cannot bathe in the same river twice. And the river cannot receive you twice, because when you come back, you too are different. So not only the human body, but all phenomena are empty of a permanent, separate self. The insight of interbeing is that nothing can exist by itself alone, that each thing exists only in relation to everything else. The insight of impermanence is that nothing is static, nothing stays the same. Both interbeing and impermanence mean emptiness of a separate self. Looking from the perspective of space, we call emptiness interbeing. Looking from the perspective of time, we call it impermanence. So I found these teachings, pretty radical. My own experience, well, I'm going to share a couple things that it kind of took me into that journey of examination. And from my human experience within the consciousness that's created by the English language, which is the only language I know, I feel like our sense of continuation is one of a continual investment in beliefs which maintain the separate self. I very much grew up feeling myself as a separate self. And establishing where the English language is a noun-oriented language. And I just recently learned that other languages, many native languages, are verb-oriented. And so everything's in movement. You wouldn't say the woman over there, you would say there's womaning happening over there. And that is just such a beautiful difference. We're so noun oriented in English, I don't think. So I found this like really changing my mental perceptions. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how much we spend time trying to protect things and trying to contradict the impermanence of nature. And so we create all these products and things to try to, like now I'm a homeowner, so everybody in my neighborhood's worried about property values. So there's like all of this maintenance of permanence that's, I don't know, it's just amazing how much we invest in that and the protection of what we think is a separate piece of property or something that we own, and how much security, the word security has like gone off the charts in English language. And it has nothing to do with the renewal of the earth, which is our the ground of our being, you know. And so I was reflecting on all of those pieces in relationship to impermanence. And then I had to really look at my belief as a separate self, as a separate soul. This has been all my life. I've carried that. And first in the Christian context, you know, of this after death, going either to heaven or hell, but then there being an eternal life. And then eventually that came in reincarnation and the idea of reincarnation. And then I've had a very strong idea of a transcendent self. This is how I came to understand it, like that there was this universal self that didn't change, that there was a part of me that couldn't be altered by the ways we're hurt or insulted or damaged in Earth experience, you know. And that was a idea and a belief that has been one that I take a lot of refuge in. And it helps me get through times that are really challenging for me. So I just started to look at it and I decided to like sort of question, like, what is my attachment to ongoing soul? And it was interesting. I realized that part of what's underneath that for me, besides all the teachings that I received through my life, was this desire to actually transcend the earth. That underneath of that was this almost a fear of the earth and the suffering that takes place here, and like an attachment to wanting to believe there's someplace else that is more perfect or easier to be in or better. And all of that seemed to arise from my sense of separate self, being separate from the earth. You know, like all of that was just held in this concept. So it raised some really deep questions for me. Like, you know, is this like this separation from the earth? Is it the source of my dislike of myself? You know, where I carry dislike? If I dislike the earth and I am the earth? I don't know. These are just questions I'm asking. I don't have answers necessarily, but and then I was asking, can I allow myself to be one with the earth? Like really surrender to being the continuation of the earth being in any form that takes once I die? You know, it was like, how would that change my life to feel that complete oneness with earth? And her dance through, it seems like the dance of earth is very much through duality. And can I commit to that, you know, really? And can Earth's evolution be my evolution? So those are the questions that came forward for me from this reading. And I am still sitting with them. So I thought I would bring them up because I think these aren't beliefs we are meant to believe when we read them. They're teachings that we're meant to examine. And it was the first time I came across, you know, so much of Buddhism seems to talk about reincarnation, the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama and all these things. So I was like, what? This is different. So I was thinking just this time of the eclipse is a beautiful time to examine impermanence. So I'm going to invite us when we do the meditation to sort of carry this contemplation of impermanence, how each breath we take in is different air, and each breath we release changes the world around us. And each step that we take is stepping onto an earth that was not the last step we took onto her. And so it is this continuation of everything's changing and everything's interrelated. So that's what I would like to bring to the meditation.